What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS4 tutorial slash overview. So once again, we're looking at Resident Evil 4 Remake. However, this time we're taking a look at some performance patches that have been released by Illusion. Now, these patches allow you to do things like lower the resolution to push higher frame rates, as well as also lock the frame rate at 30 FPS for a more consistent experience. So I'm going to show you, of course, how to install these patches in this video, but before that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some comparisons between how the game runs normally and what the game runs like with these patches applied, and what are the best patches to choose depending on your situation. So let's go ahead and dive in right here. Taking a look at the stock performance to begin with on the PS4 Pro. These patches are going to be more effective on the PS4 Pro since there isn't much headroom in the base PS4 to even run the game as is. So PS4 Pro is where this is going to stand out, although there are some improvements to base PS4 as well that we will go over. So starting off here, this is the PS4 Pro running in its resolution mode on stock settings. And as you can see, for some reason, they opted to go with a unlocked frame rate, even though the frame rate is barely managing to achieve over 30 FPS anyway. As you can see, most of the time it's between 30 and 33 FPS in a fairly demanding section of the game that I've been running these tests on, which is just an open area near the beginning of the game where you're getting swarmed by quite a few enemies. So as you can see, that is kind of the frame rate that you can expect in the resolution mode. And another problem is, of course, the frame pacing. You can see that there's improper frame pacing going on. We do have constant frame time spikes happening as well, which overall does not make for a smooth experience. So one of the patches that can fix this issue on the resolution mode for PS4 Pro is the 30 FPS lock patch by Illusion. This one was actually released earlier as well. So if we apply this patch, you can see that we do get a consistent 30 FPS lock, which is overall going to make for a smoother experience. Plus, you can also see that we're getting far less issues on the frame time graph as well. We're not getting constant frame time spikes. We are getting some inconsistent frame time here and there, but for the most part, you can see it is a lot smoother than it was at the stock settings. So moving on to the frame rate mode next. So the PS4 Pro runs at an unlocked FPS on frame rate mode as well, as you'd probably expect. And with the frame rate mode, it is able to achieve much higher frame rates because it's running at a lower resolution, around 900p, I believe. So as you can see here, it's able to run at, low 50s most of the time, even in the outdoor areas. It can occasionally spike downwards to, the 40s occasionally at certain sections, but most of the time it seems to be running in the kind of low 50s generally. So that's what we've got on the stock settings for the frame rate mode. Now, in terms of patches, you can apply different resolution patches. There's 83%, 67%, 50%, and 25%. These represent about 200-ish p at 25%. Then you have, 400p, 600p, and about 740/720p, which is the 83% mark. So, and of course, 100% is the stock resolution. So if we apply the 83% patch for the frame rate mode, you can see that we get 83% of the regular resolution, so it's about 720p roughly, and you can see that we do get 60 FPS here on the PS4 Pro in the frame rate mode with this patch applied. Okay, so if we move on to the base PS4, now the base PS4 is kind of struggling to run the game as is, so we're not really going to expect any miracles here when it comes to the base PS4. However, as you can see with the stock settings on the base PS4, for some odd reason, they opted to go with an unlocked frame rate. And it actually is achieving, higher than what the PS4 Pro achieves on its resolution mode on stock settings, where it's getting about 35 to 45 FPS. It fluctuates quite wildly though, which is not very good for the perceived smoothness as you're playing through the game. So not great overall. And as you can see, the frame time spikes are all over the place as usual. So if we apply the 30 FPS patch to the game, you can see that we are still getting the frame time spikes, although they're not as bad. They are more consistent rather than getting wild fluctuations. However, the frame rate is a solid 30 FPS, so we're no longer getting those wild swings in the frame rate. So you will still see probably a benefit in enabling this patch on the base PS4. Now, what about trying to achieve 60 FPS on the base PS4? Well, unfortunately, even Illusion can't work miracles when it comes to this. So it's pretty much impossible to achieve 60 FPS on the base PS4. I tried going as low as 25% resolution scaling here, on the PS4 to try and get to 60 FPS. And as you can see, it looks like somebody's just smeared Vaseline all over the monitor screen, because you can barely make out anything at this lower resolution. And even at this lower resolution, it's still not able to achieve 60 FPS. We're talking about the kind of low 50s most of the time. It maybe goes a little bit higher indoors, but it never really achieves 60 FPS unless you're just staring at a wall, in which case that's not really representative of normal gameplay. So unfortunately, 60 FPS on base PS4 isn't really achievable unless you go down to, like, I don't know, 10% resolution, and I doubt you could even play the game at that lower resolution anyway. So unfortunately, 60 FPS is kind of off the table for base PS4, but it's more than achievable on PS4 Pro in its frame rate mode at the 83% resolution scaling, or even 67% resolution scaling if you're willing to sacrifice more of the quality of the image to get a smoother experience. So those are the patches. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to install them here on your jailbroken PS4. Okay, so first thing we need to do, of course, is load our GoldHEN payload to jailbreak our PS4. So head to kmeps4.site or whatever other exploit host you're using and run the GoldHEN payload to jailbreak your PS4. From there, we're going to go up into the GoldHEN settings. We're going to make sure the plugins loader is ticked. So in the plugin settings, we want enable plugins loader to be ticked. We also want to head into the server settings, and we're going to enable the FTP server so that we can remotely connect to our PS4 to transfer the files to install the game patch plugin. So we're then going to go ahead and switch back over here to our computer. So if you don't already have the plugins installed for GoldHEN, you're going to want to go ahead and download the plugins from the plugins repository. And we're also going to need a way to apply the patches. Now, there's two ways to apply the patches. You can either use the GoldHEN Cheats Manager, or you can use the Itemzflow Game Manager. So it's up to you which one you want to download. So download either one of these from package-zone.com or download them from the Homebrew store on the PS4 itself. So what we're going to do now is open up the GoldHEN plugins. We're going to extract the plugins.ini file. We're going to extract the plugins folder out to our desktop. If we take a look here at our plugins.ini file, you can see here that we have the game patch plugin already added, so it's all good to go. So all we need to do now is open up an FTP client like FileZilla, or you can do FTP from within Windows or use WinSCP, another FTP client. And then we're going to go ahead and type in the IP address of our PS4, and the port number is 2121, quick connect. And then we're going to head to data, GoldHEN, and then copy the plugins file in, and also the plugins folder. You're going to want to copy that in there as well. So once you have those copied into that location, obviously I already have them installed, but once you have them copied in there, you should be ready to go. So all we need to do now is install either the Itemzflow Game Manager or the GoldHEN Cheats Manager. So to install these, you can either put them on the root of a USB drive, but since we're on FTP anyway, I'll just go ahead and go back into the data folder and then go into the PKG folder. If that folder doesn't exist, you can just create it. And then if we go in there, we can go ahead and copy our packages to install right here for the Itemzflow Game Manager and the GoldHEN Cheats Manager, and then switch back over here to our PS4. So back on the PS4, we're going to go into GoldHEN, debug settings, package installer. If you're using the new versions of GoldHEN, then you need to have the either hard drive scanning or USB scanning enabled so that you can find your package files. And then from there, we can install the GoldHEN Cheats Manager or the Itemzflow Game Manager. And again, I already have them installed right here. So if you want to apply the patches using the GoldHEN Cheats Manager, then we're going to open up this tool. And when you get into the main screen, you're going to hit the update option. And the update option will scan online to get all of the latest patches, as well as all of the latest cheat files, and it will install them onto your PS4. There we go, that's all the cheat files. Now it's doing the patches. And there we go, 187 patches have been applied. Then we just go into the patches section. Now you will get an error message if the GoldHEN patch plugin is not installed properly. So if you get an error message saying it's not installed, then you haven't installed it correctly. And then we're just going to hit the triangle button here, which will filter only for the games that we have installed and for games that we actually have patches available for. So in this case, we have Resident Evil 4 Remake. These patches are only for version 1.04 right now, so you need to make sure you're on that specific game update in order for these patches to work. So if we go in here, you can see all of the patches that are available. So as you can see, I already have one enabled right there. So we've got our 30 FPS patch, which is for the resolution mode or base PS4. And then you've got your different resolution scaling. So like I said, 83% is what you're looking for on PS4 Pro. If you're using the frame rate mode and you want to get the 60 FPS on the frame rate mode, then you can go ahead and set the resolution to 83%, which is obviously going to be blurrier, but not as bad as any of these other options, and you'll get a 60 FPS experience. And of course, if you're on the base PS4 or you're using the PS4 Pro in its resolution mode, then I would recommend the 30 FPS mode, or the 30 FPS cap right there. So then you just select the patch that you want to apply, you activate it. Once it says it's active, you can then close out of the GoldHEN Cheats Manager, launch the game, and then it should apply the patch on launch. And of course, if you're wanting to apply the patches using the Itemzflow game manager instead, then we're going to load up this application. And then from here, we're just going to select the game, and then we're going to go down to trainers, and you can press triangle to download and update the latest patch database. Or if it doesn't detect any patches available, it will ask you to search the database online to download the latest patches, just like the GoldHEN Cheats Manager when you hit update. So you can do that and then select the trainers option, and then it will give you the patches here, and you can scroll through them with the left and right on the D-pad to select whichever patch you want. So 30 FPS, 83% resolution, 67%, 50%, and 25%. So again, I'm going to select the 30 FPS patch and apply that. And then you can just launch the game from within here, and it will apply the patch on launch. As you can see, you should get a notification when it's about to launch the game in the top left-hand corner that will say the patches that have been applied. So one patch applied, one patch line applied, and there we go. We have the 30 FPS patch now applied to the game. So yeah, the modding community with Resident Evil 4 Remake has just done, a phenomenal job so far with this game. Of course, the fact that we've had CYB1K or Cyber 1000 releasing the backport so that we can actually play this game on our older firmware PS4s. And of course, with the GoldHEN 2.4 beta, we've got cheats, then we can select different cheat files to load for the game. We also now have the mods that we can also apply thanks to Kernel Panic, who released the texture converter, so we can now convert our PC mods to run on the PS4 version of the game. I've done a whole video tutorial showing you how to do that, which I'll leave in the cards and down in the video description. And now, of course, we have performance fixes by Illusion so that we can get the game running at higher frame rates or a more consistent locked 30 FPS in the resolution mode, rather than all of the kind of crazy frame rate fluctuations that you have to deal with when you play this game normally on PS4. So yeah, lots of improvements there made to this game by the PS4 homebrew and modding community, which is great to see. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.